Welcome, everybody. This is Hope and Connection, interdisciplinary spiritual care for elders and those at the end of life. So glad to be with you. Let me begin here. People all around us, day and night, night and day, in the grocery store, in your neighborhood, in your school, in the park, wherever you work, learn, live, or play, the hospital, and the nursing home, wherever we go, people are dying without hope. Everywhere we go, people are dying without hope. Now, you may think that that's an over exaggeration. You may think that, oh, the people I see all the time are healthy, vibrant. They're not dying without hope. Well, let me share with you a story about my encounters with a young couple in their 90s, and we'll call them Ron and Sally for our purposes here today. You see, Ron and Sally, in their ripe young age of 75, had decided to move into worry-free retirement living. They were in the first wave of people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who had moved into this brand new complex in the Denver metro area, promising worry-free retirement. And things were great. They had a beautiful view of the Rocky Mountains. They were able to live, laugh, love, have friends and family over all the time. They were close to their kids, their grandkids. What could be better? And as the years went by, soon they found themselves in their 80s and their upper 80s, still cooking along really well. But things got harder and harder. It got harder to make it to the grocery store. It got harder to prepare their meals. It got harder to have the energy to navigate even this two-bedroom condo that they had taken on. They started bugging their kids more and more to help them get their medications. They started having more and more issues, more and more trips to the doctors, just more and more. And all of a sudden, worry-free retirement living led them to choosing a new option for living, which was a continuing care assisted living apartment. They thought, oh, this would be fine. We don't have to cook. We don't have to clean. We get everything handed to us on a silver platter. We get to keep a lot of our physical materials, and we just put them in our new apartment and everything will be great. Well, things were going along really well until a couple years ago when, you see, Ron's heart started to fail. His energy started to deteriorate. Sally's eyes started to blur. Her strength started to go. Ron needing help more and more. Sally would do her best to lift him up and pull him up out of bed and get him into his seated chair or walker. And one day, as she was trying to help Ron, everything fell apart in a split second. The hopes and the dreams of this worry-free living, this golden ages of living well into their 80s and 90s, vanished as Sally took a terrible fall. Bones were broken, and in that split second, hopes were dashed for what they had really hoped would be this glorious riding into the sunset arm in arm together. By the time I got to them, they had been in the rehab center for quite a few months. Sally had continued to try to get stronger, get back to being able to walk. Ron became wheelchair bound, started to have a bit of dementia sinking in. Ultimately, his heart was failing and it was time to call in the hospice team. And I remember being summoned to their shared apartment, in their, not really apartment, their shared nursing home room that the staff had worked as hard as they could to put the two hospital beds together in one room. And then in another room, they made a little living room environment so that Ron and Sally could try to still live together, still live as closely as they could while both being managed in the long-term care setting. And I remember asking the staff, I said, hey, I'm here to see Ron and Sally. And they kind of gave me that look that comes only when you really know that you're talking to someone who has an idea that, these people may have something going on. And I remember them saying, oh, Ron is lovely. You'll all love him. But Sally, she's a bit of an acquired taste. I thought, okay, that's interesting to know. Well, I met them. They were lovely. They were East Coasters who were loving living here in Denver. And as we sat down to visit, all of a sudden, Sally began to just share and share and share so many things that were on her heart and on her mind. Told me about their love story, told me about their kids, told me about how they had never argued a day in their 70 plus years of marriage. Yet the staff had kind of forewarned me that their love language was yelling at each other across the room or in the hallway at a level 10 out of 10 to get each other's attention. And it struck me as Sally would say something and then she'd look over to Ron and say, "Isn't that right, dear?" And he'd say, "Yes, dear, that's right." It's like, good man. He knew how to keep their marriage going after all these years. And so as they were sharing over and over these many stories, ultimately it came down to this, their biggest concern. You want to know what it was? They felt like they had a lack of privacy. You see, all this couple in their 90s was looking forward to each and every day was having lunch together, enjoying a little chocolate, a little dessert after their meal, and then cruising down the hallway to their room where they could snuggle up next to each other in bed and fall asleep for an afternoon nap, holding each other in their arms. The staff, give them credit. They had done a lot to try to make sure that this would happen. They moved the beds together. They put up signs that said, "Do not disturb." It was written in their care plans. They'd done a lot, but it just continued to frustrate this poor couple because they felt like they constantly were losing out on privacy and they were losing out on connection and they were losing out on each other. And it was really just this deep-seated loss that they were struggling with and dealing with. Ultimately, it came down to trying to come up with a plan and said, "Oh, I'll be back in a couple of weeks to see how you're doing." And that seemed to suffice until word got out that Ron was sinking fast. His mood was in disarray. Sally's nerves were shot. Her agitation, her worries were a 10 out of 10. Everyone was on high alert trying to help this young couple just make it to the end. You see, folks like Ron and Sally represent millions and millions. Close to 60 million people are alive here in America today. 65 and above. They've made it to that golden years of their elder stages of life. And that doesn't mean that everybody at the age of 65 is done for by any means. There are 65-year-olds, 75-year-olds, 85-year-olds still living a full and vibrant life. But there are millions upon millions like Ron and Sally who, for one reason or another, their body, their mind, their support system, it's just all run out of hope. And they get to this stage in life where all they're trying to do is just live with a little peace of mind and a little bit of love in each other's arms for an afternoon nap without being disturbed. And it seemed like no matter what was done, no matter how everybody worked to bring this couple together, they were dying without hope. So what do people like Ron and Sally really need? Do they need more bingo? Do they need more care planning? Do they need more safety checks? Do they need more Roxanol or Elvis impersonators to come through? No, they need hope and they need connection. They need people who will hear their story, who will come alongside of them, come into their hour of need and help them to live with hope so that they're not dying without hope. And that's what this time is all about. How do we help people like Ron and Sally reach the end of their journey with just a little bit more hope than what they've started with in these days when they can't even take a nap together without getting disrupted? I want to highlight the lyrics of a song by Lauren Daigle. Her song Rescue. It's almost like she speaks with the voice of God in this song, and she talks about how she hears the whisper of the cry, and she speaks in this lyric. Let me share that with you. You are not hidden. There's never been a moment that you're not forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you. In the middle of the darkest night, it's true, I will rescue you. Folks, that's what we need for our friends like Ron and Sally. We need to raise up an army of hope filled with agents of hope who will go out on a mission and help to seek and love and care for folks like Ron and Sally. So the first thing we need to do as we consider raising up an army of hope is we look at this as an interdisciplinary team. So often, if you're in the healthcare world, you know all about interdisciplinary teams. You know, oftentimes they're nurses, they're therapists, they're doctors, there's nurse practitioners, there's pharmacy specialists, there's safety specialists, there's quality assurance people in the hospice world. Our interdisciplinary teams are core to everything that we do in hospice. We've got our RN case managers, we've got our medical social workers, we've got counselor and dietitian and bereavement chaplains. We've got everybody on board coming together to surround these people with as much hope as we can possibly muster. And so that's really what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to see the interdisciplinary team filled with all these agents of hope take on the identity and the values of an army of hope, that this is not just another team meeting, this is not just another job, this is not another just title on a job description. These are agents of hope. These are not just nurses, these are not just therapists, these are not just nursing assistants or physician assistants. These are members of a team that are like an army of hope who are going out there on a mission. And each member of this team embodies the presence and the power of hope. Each person on this team must embody the presence and the power of hope. And each member of this team collectively as a whole must realize that we are now living on mission. We are living a mission to go out there and rescue hearts, renew minds, and restore souls through hope and connection. So I know maybe you've heard hope and maybe you have lots of different opinions about hope. Maybe for you it sounds a little wishy-washy. Sounds maybe just like it's like just a glossied up optimism. Really, I love this definition from Dr. Jerome Grootman, that as he took a look at his cancer patients and he wondered what is it that helps these people manage the chemotherapy and the loss of their hair and the loss of strength, and literally feeling like the therapy that they're undergoing to cure the cancer might just be the therapy that kills them. What is it that helps them keep on going? What helps them to survive? What helps them to make it another day? And he boils it down to hope. And this is how he defines hope. He says, hope is the elevating feeling that we experience when we see in the mind's eye a path to a better future. Hope acknowledges the significant obstacles and the deep pitfalls along that path. True hope has no room for delusion. I love that. Maybe you've heard and you agree that hope is not a plan. And I'm with you. Hope is not a plan. We need more than just hope, but we need hope to be the motivation. We need the hope to be the vision. We need hope to be the healing force that animates and elevates everything that we do together to help these people like Ron and Sally. So yes, hope is not a plan, and hope is not optimism. Hope is a powerful force for healing and health and restoration. So let's see what the game plan is for raising up this army of hope. First, we're going to focus on drafting ourselves agents of hope. We've got to come out and we've got to recruit. We've got to bring together an army of hope. We've got to help people see in their mind's eye that this is more than just optimism. This is more than just a delusion. This is more than just, going through the motions. We are drafting agents of hope. And so what we need to do is we need to paint a picture. We need to paint a calling. We need to lay out a vision that we're taking people from a comfortable place in their role on the team, or maybe it's their role in the family, or maybe it's their role in the neighborhood. And we're calling these people to a transformational journey. We're calling these people out on a life mission to go out and make an eternal impact. When I served as a volunteer coordinator in hospice for a few years, I would get on a website called volunteermatch.org. And it was a lot like Match.com or eHarmony or whatever dating site that are out there today, where you're putting out a profile and you're trying to attract volunteers to come and join your mission, come and join your nonprofit or your agency or your opportunity to utilize volunteers in the community. And I would read other hospice volunteer match ads, and they'd say things like, be a hospice volunteer. Help us meet the 5% mandate that Medicare requires for all hospices. And I read that and thought to myself, that doesn't make me want to volunteer with that type of energy. So I would start to craft something that was vision oriented. I would craft a statement something like this. Are you feeling called to go out there and make a lifelong impact for an elder in your neighborhood, a grandmother, a grandfather who might be distanced and isolated from their family? Do you want your life to have more meaning and purpose? If so, then come join this army of hope known as the Hospice Volunteer Team, and come be an agent of hope where you will go out and make an eternal impact. And I would write it much more clearly than that. I'd offer opportunities to go and make influential visits to veterans and to grandmas and grandpas, wherever people were at. So that's the first step. The first step in this raising up an army of hope is to draft agents of hope. And as you'll see on the screen here, the second step is to develop agents of hope. And as I think about drafting and developing agents of hope, I really love this image. You've got the police officers, you've got the real estate agent in the bottom corner, you've got the nurses front and center, you've got the plumber, you've got the IT guys, you've got the office manager, you've got the mom at home, you've got the photographers, you've got everybody together. So really, as we think about drafting and developing agents of hope, we're casting a big net. We are casting a net beyond just the technical of the interdisciplinary team. We're drafting a net wider than just professionals. We're drafting a net out into the community to see if we can get teachers and preachers, nurses and nannies, see if we can get professors and plumbers, see if we can get retired folks or anybody that's just tired to come and be a part of this mission to raise up hope and to bring hope and connection to people like Ron and Sally. So that's why I want to expand our vision for what this can look like as we think about raising up an army of hope. Yes, we want to raise up our current professionals if we're in a healthcare environment, if you're in a recovery environment, whatever that might be, a housing environment. Yeah, we want to help raise up professionals, but we also want to realize that there are many, many, many more lives out there who will not cross paths into our professional settings, who also need hope, who are also dying without hope. So we want to raise up everyday people to be agents of hope who will go out there and deliver on this mission of bringing hope and connection to a world that's dying without hope. So how do we develop? This is really where once we've drafted the new recruits to join this army of hope, we're sending them off to boot camp. We're sending them off not to tear them down, but to really build them up, to help them build a new identity, a new purpose, a new mission of what they can really be called to do. And this is taking them on a transformational journey, as I already shared, because we're caring for the heart and the soul. We're beginning right there. We have to develop agents of hope, even if it's a nurse or a physician's assistant or a CNA who's got 25, 35 years of experience. We have to help them begin and regrow the well of their heart and soul, refuel their heart and their soul so they can draw from that as they go out there and reestablish this mission that is much bigger than just handing out medicine, much bigger than just arranging a lunch outing, much bigger than just playing bingo. We're arranging a mission for people who are lost and lonely and brokenhearted to find hope again. And so it begins as we help people care for their heart and soul. And then we want to model and we want to teach and we want to train and equip people how to connect deeply to elders and especially those at the end of life journey. And your context may be different. I'm just sharing elders and end of lifers as an example of the context that I've spent the last 17 years in, and help all of us to relate to this very simple strategy. How do we connect to these people who are dying without hope? We listen to their story. Not just getting the facts, but we're listening at three levels: the content, the process, and the metaphor. And then we're learning from this story. We're asking more questions. We're asking the whys and the hows and the whats and the whos and the whens. And we're really digging in as like detectives of this story. We're not there trying to psychoanalyze. We're not there trying to fix them. We're trying to listen and we're trying to learn. We're developing this holy transcendent curiosity that really helps us tap into their heart and their soul. And then we love their story. And this is where it all begins to make so much sense. The people like Ron and Sally, yes, everybody was trying to manage them. Everybody was trying to dictate to them what they needed to do. And understandably so, they had certain things that they needed to work on, certain things that they were lacking, and that if they were to ever reach these goals of independence again, they had to get stronger, healthier, get their muscles and joints and ligaments all to work in harmony together. But more importantly than that, they needed people who would love their story, who would love them, who would accept them, who would welcome them hospitably into their own world. And it was so neat to see when this would happen. And even today, it's just so amazing to see. It's the people who deliver the meals. It's the people who clean the rooms. It's the activity staff who take the little extra time to know that before someone like Sally participates in exercise, just take an extra 30 seconds to compliment her about how her hair looks so lovely today. Or take a little extra moment to give someone like Ron a pat on the back and say, "You're looking real handsome today, Ron. So good to have you with us." That's just little steps that all go such a long way to love the story, to listen to the story, to learn the story, and to love the story. That's what we're doing. And we model this with the team. We model this with the trainees that are coming on board as agents of hope. These nurses and nannies, these physicians and plumbers and professors, the retired and the tired, as the leader of this team, whether that's as a chaplain, a social worker, a nurse, a doctor, an administrator of a senior living community. You can really lead this team by example. You can model this with the people that you're training as you listen to their story, as you learn their story, and as you love their story. And then the final part of developing agents of hope is to realize that we need communities of hope. We need these agents of hope. We need these people who are coming on board as an army of hope member. We need them to feel like they are a part of something greater than themselves. They are part of a community. They are a part of more than just themselves. They are coming together in a community that is on board with transformation. They're taking this transformation journey of becoming agents of hope together. They're not just kind of siloed off in a corner. And I used to hate this part about training volunteers, but I'd have to give them 20 of the most boringest training modules you could ever imagine that had nothing to do with the greater mission, vision, values, or purpose of what we were going to be doing. But in order to check off the boxes, we needed them to be able to understand that, we want to be all about mission and vision and values, but we also have to make sure that you understand the safety risks. We have to help you understand the HIPAA compliance. We need to help you understand the chain of command and how to use proper communication as you're talking to the team and talking to people in the community. So yes, they were necessary. They were not my favorite part. So all along the way, I would try to keep fostering this community, keep fostering this mission, that this is going to be so great. Hang in there for one more infection control module, and then we're going to get out there and go make a difference. So that's why we have to put the focus on caring for the heart and soul, helping people learn how to connect deeply to elders and those at the end of life's journey. And then we have to foster a sense of community amongst our agents of hope. Really, because ultimately we know that burnout, compassion fatigue, people just leaving the healthcare helping professions, whether that's clergy, whether that's nurses and doctors, all these people have been so burned out and broken down because of the last 4 years of dealing with COVID, dealing with staffing shortages, dealing with the Great Resignation, that we need to build people up, and we need to see that this is a whole person, mind, body, and spirit. From a spiritual dimension, from kind of a Judeo-Christian point of view, Dr. David Benner in his book, Sacred Companions, he's one who really coins the term of going on a transformational journey with people. He talks about how important it is that there are destinations of this journey. There are destinations of this transformation, of this development of agents of hope. And he says that properly understood, these 3 intended destinations of the journey, becoming a great lover, becoming whole and holy, and becoming my true self in Christ, these 3 things, they demonstrate just how radical Christian spiritual transformation really is. And I think we can realize that any life-changing transformation is going to lead us to being whole, to becoming great at loving others, and to being a true self, to being grounded, being rooted, being that there's just a presence that we bring with us everywhere that we go. And it doesn't happen on accident. It happens because we've taken this transformational journey to become an agent of hope, to become someone who is more than just a nurse, more than just a volunteer, more than just a teacher, more than just a preacher, more than just a professor, more than just a nanny, more than just a CPA. Whatever that title is that you introduce yourself as, realize that you are to become more than just that. You are more than a just. And that's what this transformation journey will do for the people that we're raising up on this army of hope. Because ultimately, if people like Ron and Sally are going to live to the fullest up until their last breath, they need people in their lives, family, friends, neighbors, healthcare workers, spiritual supporters who will listen, who will learn, and who will love. And that's what we need to do, is to raise up this army of hope to be able to provide hope and connection to a world that's dying without hope. And how do we do that? We train people to listen, learn, and love. The final step in raising up this army of hope is that we've drafted our agents. We've casted this compelling vision, laying out the stakes that this is hard. It's going to cost you something. This isn't the couch of comfort. This is a life-giving, sacrificial mission. That Mission Impossible theme that if you choose this, your mission, if you shall choose it, will cost you something. And so the last stage after we've drafted and developed is to deploy agents of hope. So we're sending people out. So whatever your context is, whether your context is more of a faith community, a healthcare setting, a senior living agency, a hospice, home care providers, whatever your community is, whatever you're involved in, you will find that people are in need of your help, in need of hope in one of three areas. They're in need of hope at home, and that's just literally inside their home base, inside their family, inside their living environment. For Ron and Sally, their home was the two of them and their children, their adult children and grandchildren that lived in the area. And you might be in need of raising up agents of hope who can go be with people in their home as they're dying without hope. Because people in their homes, or people in the community, which is right outside our front door, or people who are out there beyond our borders, beyond our wildest dreams of being able to impact lives, people are everywhere dying without hope. And so we've got to deploy agents of hope to our homes, in the community, and beyond. Because people in all three of these contexts are lost in darkness, they're lonely in despair, and they're brokenhearted as they've dealt with death. So let's just go through this, whether someone's at home, in the community, or beyond. And we've recognized that we're going to send agents of hope on a mission to listen, to learn, and to love someone who's dying without hope at home. It might be that they're lost. They just feel so lost. The things that used to bring them joy no longer bring them joy. The things that they used to rely upon for sources of strength no longer seem to be making the match. They may feel like they're just in this deep, dark spirit of darkness, that they're going through a dark night of the soul. And so what they need is to have their hearts rescued with light. And we do that through just simple care. It goes back to the simple steps of listen, learn, and love. Sometimes it's bringing a meal. Sometimes it's covering someone in a blanket. Sometimes it's just a little tap on the shoulder to let them know that you're present with them. For someone who's lonely, and we know that loneliness is such a desperate trouble in our world today. We know that the Surgeon General in the United States has declared that loneliness is a massive health epidemic. We know that Great Britain had to employ a minister of loneliness on their senior government cabinet level. And we know that people at home, in the community, and beyond our borders, beyond our belief, beyond our reach, are dying in their loneliness. They're dying of loneliness and this lonely and despair. And so how do we touch their lives? Well, we want to focus on renewing their minds with love. Again, we want to focus on that love piece. We want to focus on listening and learning, but especially on the loving. And love is patient, and love is kind, and love isn't rude. It doesn't seek our own benefit. It seeks the well-being of someone else. And so just by showing up, sitting down, and shutting up, we can renew someone. We can renew their mind with love. What's their love song? What's their love language? Is it acts of service? Is it quality time? Is it touch? What can we do to renew someone and let them know that they are truly loved? And we do this again by making that deep connection. It might take a while. It might have to build trust. We might have to continually care with this person before we can connect deeply. And once we've connected deeply, then we know that we can renew minds with love. And finally, beyond belief, beyond our borders, beyond our wildest dreams, we can have an eternal impact on anyone, whether they're lost, they're lonely, or they're brokenhearted. And really, it's about looking for ways to restore souls with life. We want to see life return to people like Ron and Sally and Joe and Susie and Bob and Betty. We want to see life into their eyes, into their bodies, into their minds, into their spirit. And it's really focusing on their spark, their life source. What is it that's gonna bring them back to life? And often we focus on community with this. Oftentimes, we focus on how do we build up community for these people. So remember, people are dying without hope in lots of different places, lots of different contexts. So whether someone's at home, someone's in their community, or someone is beyond belief, beyond touch, beyond where you think you might be able to reach them, it's still possible. It's still possible. We can deploy agents of hope to reach people even in the farthest reaches. People who are lost, lonely, and dying without hope, brokenhearted, who need rescued, who need renewed, who need to be restored. And we do that again because we care for them, we connect to them, we find community with them. Because that's how we are transformed, and then that's how we go out there and help people to transform themselves. But what happens if we don't? Maybe you've got an excuse or two already brewing. Well, this all sounds great, Nate, but you don't know what my context is. You don't know how no one where I work values the work of chaplaincy or spiritual care or caring for the whole person at all. We have it on our posters and we have it on our brochures. But on a typical Tuesday, no, we're not about any of this. And you won't find it. It's all about checking off the boxes. It's all about getting through the day. We're so understaffed. We're so overwhelmed. We don't have time to listen to anybody. We don't have time to connect with people. That's what their families are for. Well, so be it. If you take on that position, we're just going to leave people unknown, unloved, and untouched. And they're going to be afraid, alone, and feel abandoned. That's what's at stake, folks. If we do not send out people at home, in the community, right outside their front doors, and beyond our borders, if we do not send out an army of hope to go out there and rescue, renew, and restore people who are dying without hope, if we choose to just keep going about day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, just upholding the status quo, fine. We'll have millions and millions of elders and people at the end of life dying because they're unknown, they're unloved, and they're untouched. They were afraid and didn't have anybody to hold their hand. They were alone and didn't have anybody that would sit there and even just play a few of their favorite hymns. They felt abandoned because in their time of need, no one would come to their rescue. So what does it take to get to the point where no one dies without hope? What's it going to take for us to see that We have an opportunity here to see that no one has to die without hope. They may still pass away without someone next to their bedside, but that's different than dying without hope. No one has to die without hope. People can be rescued out of darkness because we've brought light to their world. People can be renewed out of pits of despair because we brought love to them. People can be brought from death to life because we brought life to them. Because it's all about embodying hope and making connections so that no one has to die without hope. Hope and connection is what it's all about. In the musical Dear Evan Hansen, there's a song lyric at the end. There's a song lyric from the musical Dear Evan Hansen, and the song is called You Will Be Found. Have you ever felt like no one was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear, like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. Because when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running. And I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found. That's what we have to provide, folks, is to find people who are lost, who are lonely, who are brokenhearted, dying without hope. Much like Ron and Sally were. They were surrounded by well-meaning caregivers who were doing the best they could to provide for their needs. But when we finally started tapping into that whisper of an SOS that they were sending out, a distress signal, it sounded like they wanted to take a nap together. But that was the SOS signal to say something deeper is going on here. We need hope and connection because we're dying without hope. In Ron's final days, in fact, his final hours, you know where Sally was? Right by his side. Literally. Crawled right into bed next to her husband, put her arms around him, kissed him, told him how much she loved him, and just stayed there with him for as long as she could. What's neat about their story is even after Ron died, I've been checking up on Sally. She has an acquired taste, and my taste has really grown to love her quite a bit. She still makes it to exercise. She actually made it up to a level of independence that she had longed for. She even stopped me one day in the hall and said, "You know what, Pastor? I'm praying for people. I'm praying for these people that I know are hurting and suffering. Staff members will come into my room and they'll start to tell me what is going on in their lives. And I tell them that I'm going to pray for them, and I do." Sally's no longer dying without hope. In fact, she's living. She's thriving. Her days may not last another 10 years, but at this rate, she's being loved. She's being touched and cared for. Not by some magic formula, not by some special program, but because people finally responded to her SOS call, and they reached out a hand to let her know that you will be found. You will be found. You will be found. Hope and connection. That's what we have to offer folks who are dying without hope. And that's going to take drafting an army of hope, casting a compelling vision, laying out all the stakes of what's going to happen if they choose to take this transformational journey. And it's going to take developing these folks. It's going to take modeling how do we care for your heart and your soul? How do we connect deeply with people who are dying without hope in your particular context, in your particular world? And how do we foster a sense of community amongst these people who are out there training to become members of this army of hope? And then we've got to deploy people. We've got to send people out to rescue hearts, renew minds, and restore souls, because people are lost in darkness. People are just lonely in despair, and people are brokenhearted in death. And it's happening everywhere. It's happening at home, it's happening in the community, and it's happening beyond our borders. So let's go out there and raise up an army of hope who will embody hope and bring connection to people in this world who are dying without hope. This has been Hope and Connection, interdisciplinary spiritual care for elders and those at the end of life. Thank you for being a part of this, and I look forward to seeing you as a part of this army of hope. Take care.